You're listening to Eat, Play, Sex with Dr. Cat, the place to up-level that sexy life of yours, with expert talk on sex, love, and nutrition.
That's such a fine dance to be in, and I think that would require somebody to really be connected with themselves and connected with their needs and what they, what's coming up for them. And what I've discovered, not only in my own personal work, but people I date, and then also like clients, like sometimes that's a challenge to even recognize that they have a need or that they have something coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And how would you, is there something that like an advice that you would give for somebody to be able to connect with that, to be able to communicate?
Yeah. I think often when we have an unmet need, especially something that's kind of chronically unmet or a very big need, it's going to show up in our emotional experience. We're going to feel resentful, distant, angry, grumpy, sad, hurt, short, irritated, competitive, insecure, etc. And so what I would say is that if you're noticing that you're having some of these challenging feelings come up, just bring that question, is there something that I'm needing?
So using these as signals, as signs that something's up.
That's right. Because I think that it can be very helpful to know our needs ahead of time. And that's something that requires, as you said, an immense amount of self-awareness and practice. It's not easy. And our needs are a moving target, right? And so it's an imperfect science, but it's pretty obvious when our needs are unmet because it shows up in the ways that we relate to ourselves and other people. We don't experience irritation for no reason.
Yeah, that's very true. I just got back from a trip in Tulum where I didn't give myself the spaciousness to transition. So I was bringing the stress and the busyness of being in LA into the jungle life. And I found myself becoming a lot more sharp and a lot more on edge. And my partner I was traveling with, he reflected that to me, and it got me to stop and just reconnect with myself where I wasn't even connected with it until it was brought to my reflection. And so I think there's for anybody, even myself who has a doctor and has been in the work for so long, there's that human piece of like, it can happen to all of us. And so setting up these different ways to be able to connect with that, whether it's a safe reflection of a person or a journaling activity, which I journal regularly, but I journal extra much when I start dating somebody because I want to stay connected with myself through that process.
Yes. And I think also part of it is, I love that. It requires that intentional self-exploration, and having that mirroring, whether it's from a partner or a friends, is so, so useful. And I think also another thread is just understanding where you get tripped up around needs. We all have complicated ways that we relate to having needs in the first place. Maybe you believe that there's no point in having needs because nobody's going to meet them anyways. Or maybe you think if you have needs, somebody's going to, you're going to push somebody away. Or maybe you think that if you have needs, it makes you needy and there's something shameful about that. And I think exploring on a more meta level what your feelings and beliefs are around having needs can be really, really useful, because that's often an obstacle or blockage that can show up when we're journaling or meditating or doing some of these other self exploration.
And so when you use the word meta, can you explain to our listeners what that means?
Yeah, it's thinking about something from a bird's eye view. So like really popping out your perspective and looking at how some of these things are happening, and it's like becoming the conscious observer and noticing patterns and trends and some of the more core material that we have, right? So when we're thinking about needs and we're thinking about some of our bigger beliefs about how we relate to needs, that's kind of popping out from this bigger perspective. And then as we move into a more closer perspective of an individual to individual interaction, we can see how some of these overarching beliefs are influencing our moment to moment interactions and ways of thinking and behaving.
Oof, wow. I feel like that is full circle to even the flirting, the way that you were describing and moving through flirting dynamics and seeing what's underneath that and what's influencing that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that that's why I'm a really big believer in the work that I do with my clients in combining skills-based learning with some of this deeper exploration around the belief structures that we have
Hmm.
and the emotional experiences that we're having, because I don't think that you can just learn the skill and be able to implement it without
Hmm.
also understanding what are some of the things that make it tricky or hard or scary for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It almost like grounds the skill into like a knowing.
Yes. And it
Yeah.
helps you integrate it more deeply.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And so I'm time checking and I'm realizing how we just vortex for a really long time. And I'm like, oh my God, but I have so many more questions I
Well, hopefully
want
this is just the beginning of our foreplay
to ask her.
together.
Yeah. I'm shy now. And with that, I want to create some spaciousness for the listener questions as well. So, for those of you who've been following me on Instagram at Sex Love Yoga, I take followers' questions and I put them to my guest experts. So, we have a couple of questions from the audience, and the first one is, I get so panicked and awkward when someone starts flirting with me. I don't know how to stop that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I
Me too.
relate.
Lovers, thank you again for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, hit subscribe and head over to eatplaysex.com to connect with me and grab my sexy guides. Because my goal here is to get you to eat, play, and sex better so you can improve your sex life, which will improve every aspect of your life. Until next time, keep it sexy.